All right, it is the Big Douglas Show. It is our first episode of the Scouting Notebook. Andy Burrows is in the co-host chair, and our special guest today is Adam Aniba. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Burrows is in the co-host chair. Let's see, we've got an echo. Special guest today is Adam Aniba. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Burrows is in the co-host chair. Let's see, we've got an echo. Special guest today is Adam Aniba. This is interesting. It just keeps.
No, mine's on my headset. I'm good.
This is interesting. It just keeps. Hold on one second. We're having some technical difficulties here. Hold on one second.
I'm going to stop and start this one, Doug.
It just keeps repeating over and over again.
Yeah, I'm getting everything twice.
It just keeps repeating over and over again.
Yeah, I'm getting everything twice. Yeah, I'm getting everything twice. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Adam, I'm going to leave and see what happens when I come back.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Cool, brother.
All right, we'll wait just a second to get everybody else loaded back up here. Technology and all right.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great.
Technology and all.
I hear that.
So we'll wait for Andy here, but while we're waiting, Adam. So we're start this thing out right for this scouting notebook segment as we prepare for the draft. So I thought maybe we could start with you and kind of going through the tape and the things you like about it, how much time it takes that you're putting in per prospect, stuff like that. While we wait for Andy.
Sure. So I started last year a draft prospect series where I put a virtual, if you will, player card on my website. And it's a one-click, will get you highlights, full draft evaluation. What I do is I watch no less than 8 games on each prospect, anywhere between 8 and 12 games, full games, no clips. I like to watch YouTube clips just for the fact I like to put them on my articles because the all 22 stuff, you really can't get transferred. So, the YouTube, that's what it's great for, is just to get, a quick bird's eye look, sometimes depending on the tape of, some good things they can do. But traditionally, again, I like to put in about 8 games of film before I even make any kind of, analysis on a player. I do focus on fits in Washington, but I've actually branched out more. Like I do a lot of small school evaluation. I've talked to Kyle Duggar in the past, Darius Leonard, Danny Johnson, so there's been a couple, great guys this off season. I was able to talk to, a really, big up and coming kid, in my opinion, from the HBCU level. So, I have an article coming out about him, but I really enjoy just watching tape. And, I'm a writer first, and I'm a Washington fan. And I became into film evaluation about 5 years ago, working under Louis Riddick and, some great GMs. So I'm just trying to, translate what I learned into my website, the Burgundy and Gold Report. But yeah, I hope that, people listen, check out my stuff. I'm not one of those guys that just, watches YouTube, doesn't put in the work. I'm not a know-it-all, but I know the guys that I like and, the ones that fit in Washington.
Let's, when we talk about premier positions, is that changing? It felt like it would, for a long time, it was, tackle, D-end, and corner. Quarterback aside, of course. Right. In this modern NFL where it's quick passes, everything out fast, when you're evaluating talent, when we're heading to the draft, has the premier position changed?
I think only a few years ago, offensive tackle, left tackle, blindside, there's a movie about it and everything. That was a premier position. To me, I've really dropped it down, not to just second, you're talking about, maybe third or fourth in some scenarios, because you're having like receivers and running backs coming into the NFL right now a lot more prepared. We look at a guy like Antonio Gibson, that's a guy I watched 2 years of film on, and I said, he can play running back in the NFL, but I just love him as a receiver. He's kind of built like an old school throwback. But, he came in, and I don't think it's because of coaches. I just think he's that kind of workhorse. 1,000-yard season right now as it stands, top 10 in rushing. So I think that when you look outside the box at some of these prospects, you start to see, Memphis is a school that I really dedicate a lot of time. You have Gainwell now for Philadelphia, and, you have the kid in Dallas. So it's really about, certain schools and schemes. So I'm more attracted to schemes than necessarily only divisions. And sometimes that takes me all over the map.
When we're looking at the 11th overall pick here for Washington, and that's set now, positions that we still need: free safety, middle linebacker, positions that aren't generally taken that high.
Right.
Do you think that will start changing? We had a tight end go 4 last year.
Right.
Those positions generally, because of pay scale, I think more than anything else, don't get drafted real high. But again, with the passing game being what it is and short over the middle of the field routes, will we start putting more emphasis on the middle linebacker and the safety position going forward, do you think?
I think we definitely will. I think Jamin Davis, Washington fans are comical to me because they're already giving up on this guy. If you look at 1 year to next to Kentucky, the kid's really smart. And to say he's done or he's a bust and he's not a middle linebacker, I think that's short-sighted, because I think what you have to understand now is the NFL is changing tremendously, especially with linebacker. I don't think it's the traditional sense now. You're going to have a middle linebacker plays all 3 downs and that's it. I'm looking at a few guys right now, and again, I'm staying in the SEC. Your Georgia Bulldogs, made my Tide look, like garbage. But, the fact remains, they still have talent at linebacker, but nobody wants to put him in the middle linebacker boxes. It seems like everyone's scared scared lately to, give a guy a Mike label, because that means he better be the top of the class. He better be generational. He better be somebody that commands the field. Well, there's guys that on the first 2 downs, they're actually excellent at rushing the passer. But, in the case of Alabama, you've got Christian Harris. He's a guy that they're talking about on the outside, Tutu as well. But those are both guys that can come on the next level and play middle linebacker probably 50% of the time, but in pass sets when you need him to. So the NFL is changing as far as traditional position. It's about matchups. Offenses are just so innovative right now. You can't just plug a middle linebacker or a corner or a safety and say you stay here and that's it. Everyone's got to roam. Everyone's got to, be able to be multifaceted. So in this draft, the thing is, I think that there's some talent you can get in the top 15 at those positions. But I think after those top guys go, you said free safety, linebacker, it's a little bit of a drop off. But to, get into the mid first round and, early second round with those positions, if that's like the second or third rated at the position, I think that's going to round higher than we've seen in the past. So I think there's going to be a lot more emphasis on defense. Even though Washington's continue to go defense constantly, I think they got shown this year how exposed they can get, and you just need speed, talent, and instincts back there. So this draft has it.
Mm-hmm. Adam, how have you found, being obviously a film evaluator, what you do and stuff, how have you found the role that the social media now plays in all this? And are you finding it easier now to evaluate players, or you're in a world now where everyone seems to be doing what you're so very, very good at, where, I value your opinion more than most, really, when it comes to this kind of thing. How are you finding that side of it now with the world that we live in now? And obviously we've all been locked down for God knows how long now. With what you're doing right now, it's now getting into your busiest period. How is the role of the social media world and that you getting hold of film? Is it a lot easier than it used to be when you first got into this kind of business?
It's easier. I wouldn't say easier, but the thing is, like you mentioned, a lot more people are doing it. And to me, I don't look at it as competition. The more, the merrier. But what starts to happen on social media is it turns into definitives, and he's not going here, and Ron Rivera's not picking there, and these guys aren't drafted there. That's what I'm not into. I'm into evaluating, and I might talk on social media. I see him as fits, but bottom line, you'll see. I clearly, I have my Washington articles and then my draft articles. Washington fans are, more than welcome to say that they're fits in Washington, but that doesn't always mean that, you know, I'm this end all and be all, and I don't think anyone else is right. I think it's all about perception. If that wasn't true, I think you'd see draft hit rates for a lot of talented, you know, Mel Kipers and all them in the 70 percentiles. These guys, you're talking about less than 20 to 30% as far as how successful they are. For me, you know, to be able to evaluate Jared Patterson and Danny Johnson and then both end up on Washington, and then, like I said, also Antonio Gibson in a short period of time, to me, those are what I call hits. And if they can come on the next level and produce right away, you know, Gibson, Duggar, Darius Leonard is right now. That's my guy. That's my claim right there, because that guy's the best linebacker in the NFL, bar none, right now. So when you find those guys on the small school level, I think that changes the game. I think you're even seeing the team now put out small articles about small school prospects. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm copying anybody's copying me or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, in this business, that's what people do, because people only have so much time in the day to actually, you know, watch a full game of college football. You know, go into a YouTube or, you know, go into what other people say, you know, it's a lot easier to do that. So again, as long as you come to the game humble and you come, you know, with valid conversation about prospects, I'm all about it. But, you know, unfortunately, I've had to block a lot of people this draft season, and we're not even in January yet. But, you know, it goes along with it. You know, you'll see with John Keim every day, he gets attacked, and I really respect him. You'll see me reshare his stuff a lot, because he went ahead and, you know, he worked with some of the people I did as far as Scouting Academy and other places and other people that I work with too, and Doc Walker and other guys, you know. So he took the extra step to figure out the film. So to me, he's one of the few guys out there that's actually watching the film, and, you know, he's trying to bring it to you. So, you know, yeah. I think it's a great thing, more the merrier.
How early on into the process do you know, Adam, when you've got a player? I mean, obviously you're evaluating now the job, but how early on do these players come on? I've always, because I'm not a massive draft guy. Obviously over here, I was saying to Doug before we start recording, we're very limited to what we can watch over here. But I'm always interested. Like I said earlier, I watch card breakdowns, I read your articles. How early on in that process, in your mind, you think, hi, this is the player that we need to look out for? Because, like, for me, I don't know till they hit my screen, till you might share it, or like Doug might talk about it on a podcast. But how early on in your process do you think this is the player to watch here?
I don't think you do, to be honest with you. I think what you do is, what I do is I get a pool of players. So right now, you know, I'll probably look at another dozen players, but I've got my large pool of guys that I'm looking at. You know, some I'll write about a lot. I'll keep in mind, whatever I put out, I write about at least 3 times as many. I just don't put it all out. It's impossible. You know, once, you know, there's more staff involved, you know, that's a different story. But what I do is, after evaluating, you know, each game, I look for games that are bad games for the prospects. So not just the good stuff. I really look at the bad games. And, you know, when you hear stuff like this is a down quarterback year, all that does for me is that's like a challenge to me. So that's why you'll see the first 5 I put out, 3 were quarterbacks. So that's me just really diving into that. So that's, you know, 30 plus games right there. And I think, you know, there's a lot of great things to say about this class, but do I know to the next level? The reason it's impossible is because of the system. Because if you could know where they're going to go to the next level, that'd be easy. But right now, not knowing what teams, to me, you go to a team like, you know, say Jacksonville, look at Lawrence, or you go to Denver. I think you have a totally different story what happens with Lawrence. People are already saying he's a bust. He's in a bad situation. Like, we're talking about toxic situations. You know, that's Jacksonville, New York Giants, and Washington right now. Those are the 3 most toxic situations, in my opinion. So fit is everything. So you cannot really have that sense unless you know that. But I see the it factor. So I would say, you know, there's a few guys in this class that I just have labeled as the it factor right now. And we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they end up. Gibson was one of them. So I was glad to see him end up in Washington.
Hey, let's roll back a second. You brought up that Georgia defense versus Alabama. And it's interesting. You know, what Kirby's done really, I think, is what more people do is it's all safeties and middle linebackers, basically. I mean, even the outside linebackers have that kind of speed and agility. You mentioned Jamin Davis and the fan base being rough on him. Part of that, I guess, is because, you know, Ron comes out after the season and says, he's an outside linebacker. But again, I mean, I don't understand what we're doing here, right? Because if the kid can play and has speed, let's get him on the field. You know, let's find ways to get him on there. The fan base is funny that way. We talked about a guy like Nakobe Dean, who I think is a real possibility at 11. You had said to me that a lot of people in the industry were worried whether he translates to middle linebacker at the next level. Talk to us about it. I find that to be comical. What about you?
I'm glad. I came prepared. I knew I was going to talk about Dean because, again, 11, very real situation that we could pick him up because right now I have 2 or 3 on my board right now. That'll change, but he's very high. Yeah, I'm about my 6th game in. I'm still making notes on him, but yeah, I think he can rush the passer on first, second down, play the run, and be a Mike linebacker at any time he wants. I think that right now the problem is, and I do understand you have the negative fans, but they've got a point, is these coaches are dinosaurs and they're showing an unwillingness. Like everyone talking about the Landon Collins situation, that took them how long? That took them over a half a season to really understand it doesn't matter what he says.
Game 7 or 8,
put him there or sit down. And you talk about JDR as a disciplinarian. No, he's not. If that was true, we wouldn't have seen the crap that we saw happen. Right now, it sounds like they're all coming back, and that's fine. What I'm hoping for personally is I invest a lot in the players, especially the Bama guys. And John Allen, man, thank you. I was really hoping out of all of them, Anderson, he fell flat. Payne, to me, he's fallen flat. But Allen, I was hoping one of them would. So I think between him, Chase Young getting it together, I think this defense is going to coach itself, and that's my hope. But you talk about Dean. Guys that have the ability to cover running backs and tight ends, man, those are the guys that you pay whatever. You're talking about premium positions. You have quarterback, you have top level receivers, and then you go guys like that, in my opinion, because those are the guys that don't have to come off the field no matter what. Those are guys getting 90+% of the snaps. You're seeing Allen and some of these other guys getting 80+% of snaps in interior line. That's Aaron Donald territory. So I think Allen can be that. But he needs a lot more help. And a guy like Dean, I think if you just think of it, Holcomb, Dean, and JD, that's scary right there because I think you have all those guys that can stay on in multiple sub packages, especially passing downs. One thing I'm telling you guys, we're going to see a little bit throwback to the old. This 3 tight end set, it's coming back. It's the 49ers are showing it. More teams are showing it. Fullbacks will start to make a little comeback, I believe. But these fullbacks are going to be tight ends, those flex tight ends. So I think when you see that, you have to be able to still march out, especially in a 4-3. 3 linebackers that can, cover well enough, but can really, bring the hammer down. So I think when you have a guy like Dean at 11, you're saying, can I draft a guy that doesn't have to come off the field? Hell yeah, you do it. But right now, Matt Corral, I think he's the realistic one that I think as far as quarterbacks being on the board. And, I've just, the more I watch of him, the more I love it. And I love arguing with people about him.
All right, well, let's do it. You said it. Let's get to quarterback. I think I have been on record saying that I don't think it's quarterback round 1. I have a hard time seeing it. However, Ron has come out recently and said, maybe that is a way we'll go. So at 11, we've got feels like the 4 mainstays that people keep talking about. Talk to me about those 4, and then who you think may be, if there is a guy that's there at where we pick 43. In the 2nd round, is that about what it is? Do you think any of the guys that people are talking about will fall there? Let's do that.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, I came prepared again. So, Matt Corral. Okay, what I look for in a quarterback prospect is how did he improve if he had turnover issues? How did he, respond the following year? So from 2020 to 2021, he brought his interception rate from 14 to 4. That to me, that's huge. I'm bringing him up. But then also passing yards, 3,333, nearly 600 rushing, 11 touchdowns rushing, 20 touchdowns throwing. But what I have to argue with everyone when we talk about, opting out of the bowls and, is he a team player? I won't argue that point, but Corral, I will, because he said he never had a doubt he was going to play in that game. And we saw what happened in the game. We thought, man, he just cost himself major money. He just re-aggravated a sprained ankle. He played all year with 2 sprained ankles. So that's what I'm trying to get across to people that are saying they don't know how he translates. They like him to be, he's going to come in. Everyone says he's probably going to come in just about 6 foot. I think he'll come in just at 6'1", just a little over 6'1". And I think that little difference, believes me, when in the pocket, that makes the difference as far as, guys getting their hands on the ball. But I think what I like about him is I hear all the talk about, system translating. What they did at Ole Miss is make a system purely based on combating the zone blitz and stunts. The NFL, you guys know, on Sundays, this is what we see constantly. So they're almost inviting it. But what I love about Corral is when they're doing it, although they go tempo and he can get rid of the ball fast, I see him constantly sidestep like literally like a dancer. I don't think he's the best quarterback I've seen, but right now he's one of the best quarterback fits for Washington, and the way he dances in and out, and he can still make his reads. The games that I have Arkansas and Tulane this year. People question his arm strength and him reading the field. Just go watch those. One pass, 70 yards in the air to the 1 yard line against Arkansas. Tulane was nearly 60 yards in the air, touchdown. To me, if you need more arm strength than that in the NFL, I don't think you're watching football. So he checks those boxes. He checks the durability issues because you have 2 sprained ankles and you don't miss a game. That's a guy that I want on my team. So as far as all the intangibles, what he does it translate? I have him coming into the NFL because I think, again, if you come in and you're already prepared against zone blitz schemes and pressure schemes, I think you're already ahead of the game. But as other guys that I like in the first round that maybe, someone's not talked about right now, this is one of my reaches at 11, is Jaquan Brisker, free safety out of Penn State. This is a guy, great blitzer, coverage ability, covers running backs, tight ends. His instincts, second to none in football right now. He's a leader. He's the guy that you never have to bring off the field. So although it might be a little bit of a reach for Washington, again, we're talking about Washington. So I think if you have Cam Curl and you have someone like Brisker, man, you have got the single high guy you need, and you can really just, let the guys up front truly, let loose, because I think there's going to be some shakeup in the middle with Daron Payne and even potentially, Montez Sweat. I've heard that those two are the ones that the team is kind of, not happy how they've behaved, and they're not really clicking on all cylinders, let's say. But, the third guy that I have is because, I'm coming up with realistic guys at number 11 is because I think cornerback is a huge position in need. I don't care that they paid WJ. I don't care that, Fuller has really stepped up. They don't have a CB1. I think, and you're in the draft, the top 15, CB1 is always a position you're looking for. Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. I absolutely love him. I think other than the LSU corner, I think, he's 1B. Zone press, man coverage, whatever you need him to do, I think he comes in. He's going to check in at just about 6'1", right under that. Great run defender, great against the pass, does not, get fooled on head fakes and such from quarterback. So I think right now, there's a lot to go in the process, but those are the 3 guys that I see, as realistic fits at 11. But you were talking about, 43 as well.
Yeah. I wonder if that's something they'll look at quarterbacks that would be available at 43. Real quick, just on what you said there, you brought up the safety from Penn State. That's because you think the kid from Notre Dame be gone by 11?
Yes. I wrote about him. I love him, but I wrote about him, still a little early in the process, and you can see he's gone from draft boards, from 12 to 9 to 8. Right now, he's top 5 on most nationally. So, again, just because, I will write fits, but I don't, in my articles, it's just a scouting report. I'm not mentioning the fits in Washington. So I have to write about the top safety in the draft because, crazier things that happen. I get a lot of Derwin James kind of vibe from him, but Derwin James, again, is more that prototypical, tweener and most, best at strong safety. This guy, Hamilton, is, more that slot, single high guy, 6'4", so really big. So Brisker's not quite that, doesn't have that presence. But honestly, Brisker, as far as laying the wood, I think he can probably do it as good, if not better, than Hamilton.
Adam, how important is the fit? So when you see someone getting drafted, say like Jacksonville drafting 1, Detroit drafting 2, do you see them drafting high, and then do you see the potential players that are going there? And we mentioned it earlier. So you have Lawrence, and with us, with Jamin Davis.
Right.
How important is it that the team are the right fit for that player? Do you ever see, like, when Washington drafted 2, I was like, we got Chase Young, he's an elite guy. But does it ever worry you that, because like you said earlier, the Washington fans have gone crazy on Jamin this year? It's like, just be a bit patient. He proved on Sunday now he's changed his position a little bit. Do you ever see a player, so like, say this year for Jacksonville drafting high, Detroit, do you see a player that you think, oh my God, he's going to end up a Jacksonville or a Detroit, but he will be better fitted for a Washington or a New England or wherever, how important is it that, everyone goes, yeah, it's great that you get these good players, but they might not be the right fit for that team, and that team might not be the right fit for that player.
Right. You're going to see it every year. And the problem is, by just saying team, look what happened in Jacksonville. They were saying, okay, they're going to keep the coach. Look what happened in New York. They said they're going to keep the coach. Last minute, that they're out the door. So honestly, it's a hard question. So, if you talk about Jacksonville right now, the shakeup, that's a bad situation. So, you talk about a guy like Hamilton, Notre Dame. Let's say Jacksonville wants to pull the trigger on him. A lot of teams are looking for that free safety. I say it's a bad situation, although I like that defense.
Just and the Giants as well. Look how much their draft board might have changed in the last 2 days.
Right. Right. But I think, you talk about him going to a team like the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
I think he goes to the Giants, and he's probably a Pro Bowler his first year, All Pro maybe his second.
I think us three could go to the Giants, Adam, and play in the Pro Bowl.
What's that?
Us three could probably go to the Giants and play in the Pro Bowl.
Oh gosh, man. Yeah, but it's relative. Situation does matter, but it's also who's calling the shots right now. Washington, I'm not going to lie, it is concerning because the way Turner's calling the offense, Ron, when they asked JDR, he's not going anywhere. It just seems like there's really not a sense of urgency. I think it's more like pointing the fingers at the players, and it's justified. But it's also, you've got to point your fingers. So I think what we're going to see is a bunch of guys, assistant coordinators, other guys that are going to get the boot and say, okay, the trainers, everybody, that will do better there. But again, I have hope as a draft guy that you can get players in here that can really make an impact early. I think Cam Crow is a great example of that. They can make such an impact early and, succeed, despite the coaches.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Two more names before we wrap this thing up, Adam. Malik Willis is a fan favorite. Your thoughts on him and how much time it may take. And then last one is, people have been laughing about this. Kenny Pickett is another one that fans are high on. Hand size is small. I think a lot of people don't realize that the ball gets bigger when you get to the NFL. People will laugh about that. Is it a big deal to you? And is it a big deal to scouts?
Yeah, I wrote about both those guys. And, Kenny Pickett, I mentioned slight concern, and that's all you heard from me in the article, because I just feel like every year this is what happens. If it's hand size, it's arm length is the big one. That's usually the one we see for certain positions. And him wearing the gloves, I think a lot of people, really mark him down. I think he's found an answer for it, to be honest with you, because if you look at early on, he didn't wear them. And, I think, although he did have fumbles, but you got to look at play-by-play guys. You know what I mean? Offensive line breakdowns, players strip sacks, that happens at every level. So yeah, slight concern, definitely. And that right there, that's why I say probably, a quarterback needy team pushes him up. If, you don't have teams that are really quarterback needing the top 10, he probably goes in the 15 to 20 range. I say that about Malik Willis, but I projected them both to be in that top 10, 15 range. What I love about Malik Willis is, man, the Michael Vick tape is undeniable. I put in my article, back to back. I have a YouTube video out there, a great video I found out there. And it's back to back, with both players. And I see so many similarities. But what I like about Willis is I saw 2 years of progression as a passer. Can he start day one? I think you put him in the Lance, just like the 49ers. I think you bring him in. You bring him in as much as possible. Is he going to start? No. But I think the best way to use these guys right away, it's not, people want to call it gimmick. I call that getting them comfortable. So if you can get a guy like Malik Willis into a situation where there's a veteran in front of him, a year, 2 years where he doesn't have to, I think that's a great situation. I think the 49ers are the exact situation that I see, with Willis. Washington's current situation, and I think Ron made those comments, they're not going to draft a guy for him to sit. So no. At this point, even though I wrote about it, I like him. I had to. No, I don't see him as a logical fit right now for Washington.
Adam, tell the folks where the website is and how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, it's theburgundyandgoldreport.com. Again, we drop weekly prospect evaluations all over Twitter, on Facebook. Find me at Adam Hale DC. Again, we're just going through the tape. And again, I do have a show, B&G Report, Happy Hour. I took a hiatus off of that to really just, dive into the film. I'm going to jump right back into that so I can start sharing some of my, maybe evaluations that I'm not really talking about in some of my articles that are a little outside the box. But, like I said, I really focus a lot on small school prospects. I think those are the ones that break through. Those are the ones that I feel like that separate me from others out there. And again, I talked to, a great guy that from the HBCU level. I'm going to have an article coming out about him. We had a great sit down. He was with Lewis Riddick, and actually Deion Sanders was talking to him before. So really looking forward to that. Fayetteville State. So guys, remember that Fayetteville State cornerback. He's the first guy from there invited to the Senior Bowl. So excited to get that to you. So again, the burgundyandgoldreport.com. Just follow me there, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. Hail DC.
Yes, absolutely. Adam, we appreciate your time. And Andy, we'll see you next week.
I'll be here, brother. Thank you very much.
All right, fellas. Thanks.
Thanks, boys.